Hi guys, this is Carolina Varsity. We're in our 2015 season. We are at the regional finals, and we got a big 3A Western Region final game here with number 8 Kings Mountain coming to play number 2 South Point. I'm Dale Ross,
I'm Jeff Miller.
I'm Anthony Perkins.
and Anthony, you're gonna get us going here.
Well, the winner of this game will face the Eastern Alamance Rocky Mount winner from down in the eastern part of the state. That will also be played Friday night. South Point, who is ranked number 5 according to Max Preps, comes in with a 12-2 record, going up against Kings Mountain with an identical 12-2 record. They're ranked number 6 by Max Preps, so this is a very, very close ball game just by rankings and by records and by who they played and everything else. South Point got to this point of the season by beating Southwestern Randolph 47-7 in the first round, Statesville 42-21 in the second round, and last week in a nail biter, they was escaped with a win 28-27 over a very tough West Rowan team.
It's right there. If there were any people watching from West Rowan, and I say if there were, not as you're watching it now, but if you had been watching, I'd eat crow because I didn't think that game would be that close.
I didn't think it would either. I thought South Point would win by about 7 to 8 points.
Exactly. So we'll keep rolling.
Kings Mountain got here to this point by defeating North Henderson 30-0 in the first round, by defeating number 1 seeded Freedom 21-6 in the second round at Freedom High School.
Big win, yeah.
And then last week they beat High Brighton 28-13. South Point comes in averaging 36 points per game after having scored 504 points on the year. Kings Mountain comes in averaging 36 points after having scored 448 points on the year. South Point, both teams are giving up just under 15 points per game.
Right.
South Point has given up 209 points all season long. Kings Mountain giving up 208. You can't get no closer.
Right.
Than that.
Very, very close. Yeah.
And both teams played the same amount of games, so that's a wash. Common opponents, they have played 5 common opponents in North Gaston, East Gaston, Forest View, Shelby, and Crest. Both teams defeated North Gaston, South Point by 42-0 mark, Kings Mountain by 41-11 mark. East Gaston was beaten by both teams by 45-13 by South Point, 61-42 by Kings Mountain. And Forest View was defeated by both teams 34-7 by South Point and 35-10 by Kings Mountain. Both teams lost to Shelby. South Point lost by a score of 35-28. Kings Mountain lost by a score of 34-20. Crest defeated both South Point and Kings Mountain. South Point by 31-13 count a total, and they defeated Kings Mountain by a score of 48-14. So that's as we said just a moment ago, that's an interesting statistic. They both played the same teams. They beat the same teams. They lost to the same teams.
Right.
So where you go?
Exactly.
They're as far as on the field and individual performances, South Point's come in really with 2 leading rushers, and the reason I put 2 for South Point is because they have flip-flopped all year. One game, one of them's the leading rusher. After the next game, the other guy's the leading rusher, and that's Rylan Etherton, the fullback, and the quarterback DeAndre King.
Right.
Etherton's coming into this game with 136 yard per game average compared to DeAndre King's 114 yard per game average. So you can see why I said every week it flops back and forth. Jair McClooney is the leading rusher for Kings Mountain. He's coming in with about 73 yards per game average. Passing is the big differential here between these two teams. DeAndre King's only averaging 30 yards per game passing. Darren Burns, the quarterback for Kings Mountain, is coming in averaging 166 yards per game. Statistically, team-wise, South Point 315 yards rushing, Kings Mountain 160. South Point passing 37 yards per game. Kings Mountain 125 yards per game passing. And that comes up to a total of 352 yards for South Point, 285 yards for Kings Mountain. So the offensive output differential is about a 75-plus yard advantage for South Point. To me, another thing that is an important statistic, and I could not, you were looking for Kings Mountain a while ago, their turnover differential. South Point is plus 29 right now in the season for turnovers. South Point has been very stingy as far as turning the ball over, and while at the same time their opponents have been pretty loose with the ball. And South Point every team's going to have a turnover from time to time, but the thing that's important is when those turnovers happen and where they happen at.
Right.
Last week, South Point did not have any turnovers. West Rowena only had 2. Both of them were interceptions. But one of them was an interception in the end zone, which prevented them from making a touchdown.
Right.
And the other one was an interception that led to a South Point touchdown. So that was really a huge difference in that game. Matter of fact, had those 2 turnovers not taken place and had the ball game played out, West Rowena could have won by 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But because of, and I don't know what Kings Mountain's turnover differential is, but it's hard to believe it'd be better than that. Plus 29 is pretty good.
Right.
There's a lot of pro teams like to have that. But so I would, because of, and also these 2 teams have got history. They used to be in the same Southwestern Conference, Southwestern 3A Conference. In the last 10 games, of course, I know that don't mean anything this year, but in the series, in the last 11 games, Kings Mountain has lost 10 of those games on the field. South Point had to forfeit 1 of them. So in the last 11 games, South Point's won 9 of them and lost 2 of them. And so, you know, there's a familiarity there between the schools, and between the fans, and between the coaches even. And so it'll be an exciting ball game. If it turns into a shootout, I think Kings Mountain's got the advantage because of their quick strike capabilities with the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
But if the score stays below 30, 35, I give South Point the edge. South Point can score 35 points easy on the rushing attack. But whenever you get above that, and whenever you got another team that can do the same thing, then it becomes a hair situation. But because of the closest of the 2 teams, and looking at their common opponents and how close the games were, I'm going to give South Point a 4-point advantage.
So the Carolina Varsity High School football report says South Point over Kings Mountain 23-20. So fairly close to what you're calling. A few more things I'll throw out from the report. South Point is ranked 8th in the state of 3A opponents of all the 3A teams, and Kings Mountain is ranked 12th. And of course, you mentioned the Max Press rankings of 5th and 6th for the 2 teams. Just one thing that when we're talking about leading rushers for South Point, one thing I do want to point out, because I know someone will probably bring it up, is because I thought about it. Etherton, though, does have more yards. He carries the ball more times. And of course, that's one of the things about that option in that offense is you're giving the ball so many times to the running back, and then all of a sudden the quarterback decides to keep it. A lot of times he's going to spring for more yardage. It's a tough offense to defend against. And so, as we mentioned, they're going to run, then they're going to run some more, and they're going to run some more. That's what South Point does to you. And then they'll hit you with a pass every once in a while, but you don't see too many passes in a ball game. And I can see where you say if it gets into a higher scoring game, if it gets into a faster paced game, that may favor Kings Mountain. But if you've lost, and doesn't matter if you had to forfeit a game, you still lost a game on the field. And if you've lost 10 games in a row, that definitely plays into minds. Now, does it motivate Kings Mountain to end that long streak, or does it B, do they walk onto the field and they say, oh no, so we can't beat them? That happens to kids, unfortunately. Now, they're not playing in the same conference in this alignment, so when is the last time the 2 teams?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
2 years ago was the last time they played.
So not seeing each other as much. Some of these kids, but they've heard about it from their parents and their uncles and their cousins, and there's still the communities, the people, it still floats around. So that's kind of one of the things that has to factor into the game is, especially.
Actually, I reckon it was 3 years ago, because had they not played in the playoffs,
they hadn't played in the playoffs.
Had they not played, or were they not playing Friday night? It would be 4 years.
4 years, yeah. Because we're in our 3rd year of this alignment, so they definitely have not played a conference game in that time span. So I think it's just from looking at everything, I expect this to be a real good ball game. And I expect the report to be spot on with it being a close one-score ball game, most definitely.
And as what was pointed out earlier, I didn't see South Point's first round playoff game, but I did see their game against Statesville and against West Rowan. One thing that's really stands out is South Point takes good care of the ball. I did not see a single turnover between Statesville and West Rowan. But West Rowan, though, just their speed and their physicalness definitely matched South Point's. And I think that's what Kings Mountain's going to have to bring to the table, too. Try and match South Point their physicality and try and burn them with some speed. And they do have some speed. I've watched them earlier this year when they played Forest View. And their two running backs, McLean and McClooney, and I think they can give South Point's defense trouble. And then Jake Merchant, their top receiver, can take the top off South Point's defense. But South Point's passing defense, as I've witnessed last week with the 2 interceptions, they've gotten better this year. So passing on South Point definitely will not guarantee you some success, but you might be able to make your breaks against them. But, you got the quarterback to worry about and the fullback, but don't forget about the pitch man, Nolan Smith, because, you occupy both the fullback and quarterback. Nolan Smith might be the guy to beat you.
Yeah, he had a really good game last week because, and you're right, most teams try to either stop one or the other, but not both. But then there's also that third option. And if they stop the run up the middle, then most of the time the quarterback, either on the keeper or either on the pitch out, will have a good night. And last week, Nolan Smith, he scored 2 touchdowns by beating the defense to the edge on the pitch outs. And so, South Point gives you a lot to think about on defense.
Well, all 3 guys, there's somebody responsible for them before the ball snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 guys, there's somebody in the there are guys on the defense. They know who their responsibilities are. Middle linebackers most times takes the fullback, and your defensive end is the one who really has to make that read of, am I going to take the quarterback or the pitch man? But everybody has a responsibility, and the playing an offense like this, it truly is about your discipline and your ability to take your man. And if your man is assigned the quarterback and you take the quarterback out regardless whether he pitches or not, and a linebacker or whoever's going to take the pitch man, you gotta commit and take your man. You can't think that the ball's going to be pitched and I'm going to go after the pitch man instead, because what happens? Quarterback gets one of those big nice runs against you. So.
And they're going to be running a lot of 5-man front, I guarantee you that, because they did that against Forest View to stop Mo Neal. So they're likely going to do that against South Point.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say. I would think against that offense, if your base, it depends on what your base is and, what your offense like this, you're going to want to have somebody covering the middle, which can be your linebacker. And then you may want to have more linebackers available out on the edge. But against the South Point, what we do know is you're going to see solid 7 men in the box, maybe 8. Do you run a cover 3, a cover 2? You might even slide 9 in. That's the thing is when you get against the South Point, because they're running so much, those guys start creeping in and coming up and trying to cover the run more, and that's when that little quarterback can hit you. So responsible football, man.
They do run the ball. In the last 2 games, they have thrown 1 time in each of the 2 games.
Right.
So,
You know what's coming.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be a run most likely, but you got to be cautious. But you got to play responsible football. Is what it comes down to. All right. Well, I think there's going to be a big ball game. I think it's going to be a close ball game. We know it's a big ball game. I think it's going to be a close ball game, a very good ball game over in Belmont Friday night. Putting it on my short list. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you saw this. We want to hear about it. Thank you.